So what are the do's and don'ts of getting your dream job? We'll be talking to a professional job search strategist next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox. Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, never in my lifetime has the labor market been so newsworthy. It seems like every other day there's another storyline. There was the pandemic and everybody getting laid off, and then there was the rehiring craze, and now the Delta variant and the Mu variant, and people afraid to go back into the office, and the Great Resignation. It goes on and on and on. To talk about the labor market today, Kristi Meenan. She is the owner of We Write It Now. She's a certified resume writer. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the job market. I mean, you started this company out of a kind of a labor of love because you lived it, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I really relate to job seekers and the struggles that they face and the feelings that they go through. So
what happened in 2016?
In 2016, I found myself struggling. I was without a job. I was kind of floundering. You know, I didn't know what my superpower was. I had tried for over a year. I had submitted over 100 applications.
That's crazy. And you graduated from a good school. And so
Right.
You're saying, what's wrong?
I had no idea what was wrong. You know, I had the resume, I had the experience, I was actively networking, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And so I kind of just put the job search process on hold. And I thought, I'm going to go directly to the source, get some answers. And so I met with recruiters, I met with resume writers, and I was just asking them, you know, what am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? What am I not doing? And the things that I found out blew me away. Blew me away.
And you're giving your job seekers or your candidates advice that only like HR people know, right?
It is, you know, and it's interesting because there is a strategy to getting your resume in front of recruiters. And it's not the same strategy that it was 5 years ago, nor 10 years ago. It's something that's a little bit different. And that's what I love doing, is helping those job seekers figure out those secrets.
Okay, let's talk a little do's and don'ts. I remember watching Legally Blonde, and I think Reese Witherspoon's character decided to put her resume on scented pink paper.
Yeah.
Good idea, bad idea?
Well, you know, I mean, it definitely would help you get noticed, but there are other things that you can do to set yourself apart. There's strategies, whether it comes to strategies with your resume and the ATS or LinkedIn, really just kind of tapping into the power of your network on LinkedIn is super beneficial. And a lot of people don't take advantage of that.
And for the job seeker who says, oh, aren't resumes overrated? Who reads resumes? What would you say to that candidate?
Resumes are alive and well. But the thing is, there's a resume, and that's the first piece. Then there's your cover letter. And there's a lot of, you know, do people read cover letters? Do they not? Are they a thing of the past? And the thing is, it depends. Like so many things in life, it depends. Some people live and die by them, and some people don't pay attention. So my recommendation for a job seeker out there is definitely submit a cover letter. Don't overthink it, but definitely include one. And then the other piece of it is there's your resume, there's your cover letter, and then there's LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, people aren't really using LinkedIn as much as they should or as much as they could. LinkedIn is a free resource, and it really is an extension of your resume. So whereas a resume is more of a dry, formal, stuffy document, LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to really brand yourself and demonstrate your technical savvy or your product know-how or whatever it is. It's just a great opportunity for you to Extend your brand.
And one of the things I love about Kristi is she gives away this information for free. She's got Facebook groups. Let's go ahead and put up one of them on the screen there. Now, what happens at Career Ignite?
So Career Ignite is a safe place for job seekers to go if you are seeking a job, if you're floundering in your career, if you just want some career tips or advice. It's not a place where you're going to feel chained to it. I pop in once or twice a week and give some free advice and some tips, and I throw in a little bit of career humor along the way.
Well, I know in sales they always say ABC, always be closing. For you, it's always be networking. Why is it so important to get out from behind your computer and actually meet people?
Right. So in networking, it's an opportunity to really tap into the people that you know, and oftentimes it's not necessarily that first connection. So Jeff, you may not be able to get me a job, but you might know somebody that can get me a job. So it really just, by networking, you're expanding your reach, and it's all about setting yourself apart. And if you can have a personal introduction for a particular job, that's going to set you apart.
And as smart as you were during the job-seeking search in 2016, imagine now, 5 years later, how much the wealth of information you've gathered. I'm sure you probably look back on yourself 5 years ago and say, I knew nothing then.
Right. And, if I could give you one piece of information, it's pay attention to the applicant tracking systems. They call them ATS. Back in 2016, people were telling me about the ATS, and I just thought, yeah, it's a trend. It'll go away. It's not going away. It's very real. It's a way to quickly scan through a resume. And I think the last number I saw was like 92% of companies from medium to large size companies are using ATSs. So it is important to understand how they work.
What about lying on resumes? I mean, that's easily caught, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't recommend it. You can lie on a resume to get yourself in the interview, but once you get in the interview, if you can't prove or demonstrate the skills or the expertise, you're going to get caught one way or another.
You're a very popular podcaster. We've got some video of you on a Starter Girls podcast not too long ago, and you really enjoy educating people, don't you?
I do. And it's funny that you say that, because last year during the pandemic, when most people were stuck at home, I decided I was going to really go out there, and I started doing Facebook Lives twice a week to kind of build my presence, establish credibility, and of course help job seekers out there with passing along that information that I learned, and it was fun.
Kristi, how does one know when they need somebody like you?
If you're not getting the kind of results that you expect, I would reach out, and at least we can have a conversation. I can take a quick look at your resume, pinpoint some areas of opportunity or improvement. And, I'm always fair. I'm always honest. So.
Absolutely. We're going to put up your services page off your website, because you really do a whole bunch of stuff we see on the screen. LinkedIn. What about the interview itself? Do you give any guidance on how to ace the job interview?
Yeah, I actually do. I have a free tool out there called Ace That Interview. So that's been really helpful for job seekers. But I also do actual live Zoom coaching. And so that gives them an opportunity to answer those questions that are most commonly asked. And they've been real helpful.
Okay, let's talk about the Zoom interviews, because so many people are having to do those now. You should actually dress up for it. You shouldn't show up in sweatpants and a t-shirt, right?
Yes.
Tell us why that's important.
Well, my number one tip on Zoom interviews is always go in ready, prepared, not just mentally with preparation for interview questions, but make sure all your connections are set up. Make sure your Wi-Fi is solid. Make sure your phone is on D&D. All of these things. Look at your background. Make sure there's nothing distracting in the background. There's a lot of things to consider. And so, that would be my big tip for Zoom
including
interviews.
Kids and animals, right?
Yeah.
Seems like or if that smoke detector is going beep every 30 seconds, that gets to be annoying as well.
Yeah. I've even had Alexa go off in the background too, and so all kinds of crazy things can happen.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left, so tips for the job seeker that go beyond the obvious. Get your resume updated, hire a professional like yourself. Any other takeaways?
Going back to networking is always so important. Always be talking about what your value add is. Like, what do you want to do and why? And then my second tip on networking is be sure to ask for something. So if I was networking with you, I would explain that I'm a job seeker. I'm looking to land a role in PR. Who do you know that you could make an introduction for me? Or things like that. So ask. I mean, don't be afraid to ask for help.
And showing it with energy makes a difference, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
people kind of get a vibe off of somebody who's a positive person or a negative person. How about complaining about your last place of employment? Is that a big no-no?
That is a big no-no, you know, and I mean, if you come from a difficult situation or scenario, you always want to downplay it or talk about things that you learned, things that you would do differently now.
And how do you answer the question, why did you leave your last employment, or what is your weakest area?
Right.
How do you answer those?
So why you left your last employer, you always want to make it positive. And I would tend to say something like, you know, I was really hoping for more opportunities for an advancement, and they just didn't offer that at the time. So it just wasn't a good fit, and leave it at that.
Perfect. Kristi, you've been amazing. We're going to end with your website, which is wewriteitnow.com. Kristi Meenan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.